Hello everyone, welcome to part 2 of the fourth scenario, Enter the Rear Echelons. That's the actual name of the scenario. I don't think I mentioned that in the first video. First of all, I want to apologize for the first video going as long as it did. I don't want to make videos that last that long, but it couldn't be helped because in this scenario, we're gonna have a lot of stuff going on with supply, how it works, and we're gonna have to get through that. So I really didn't have a chance, or I'm sorry, I didn't have a choice at the time. So I apologize. Really quickly, let's go over this scenario. So this scenario is supposed to add supply, specialized units, and barrage combat. Now it's funny, we went over rail movement, but this one does not allow rail movement in this scenario. So I don't know why they added it in there. I know you're gonna use it next turn. Okay, special rules. Any unit that is found to be in no supply during a supply usage phase in this scenario only is automatically removed from play. The Katyushas, I think that's the rockets that the Russians have. There's 2 of them on the board. Once they're fired, they're done. They're removed from the battle as well. And that's about it. So the victory conditions are that Germany needs to capture Orel way up here from over there. And the Russians want to take Konotop, which is down there. And you can see there's some supply points in both areas. So the way supply has me set up, there was an optional rule that I wasn't going to use, but I'm going to use it now because after reading it, I realized it's a really good rule. So here's Orel all the way up here for the Soviets. There's 40 supply points sitting there. And here's a truck right here. There's another one over there to the north. Okay. So anyway, here's how this works. It's called stationing. Okay. The rule is actually called, in actual emphasis of what it is, truck stationing. It's an optional rule, but it makes sense. So here's how it works. This particular unit, I'm going to move you. The 4 represents how many supply units he can transport, supply points from Orel. 45 is the movement points. All right. Now, in order to load this, now if we don't use the optional rules, what you do is I would have to move this piece all the way back over here. I'd load up the 4 points and come back over here throughout the turn. All right, and then drop off the supply points wherever I move them to, wherever I want to move them to. That's a lot to do in these big games, and as they get bigger, these scenarios, it's going to get worse. So why would you want to do that? In this scenario, there's my front line, and why would I want to do that? Why would I want to keep going back and forth when I could set up a front line with these supply points right now, right? So the way this optional rule works with truck stationing is this. In order to load 4 units of supply on here, I need to spend 5 movement points. So 45 goes down to 40. To unload it, I have to also spend another 5 movement points. So I'm at 35 points, right? So to load and unload in one turn, I have to spend 10 movement points. So now I'm down to 35. If I divide that by 2, I have about 17 and a half movement points. All right. So from here to here is 17 points. I just went to 17. I didn't do the extra, even though I could go the extra. My HQs for the Soviets are pretty good. They have good throw ranges they can reach. I'm going to leave them at 17. So as long as I don't move this guy, I can keep him and that guy over there as long as I want to, and it's legal. You know, as long as I'm not moving back and forth. Now, if I really had to move this guy further down the line, I would have to move him manually to where I want him, drop the supply points, and then I'd have to go back and reach Orel later on, which would be inefficient, right? But with truck stationing, if you know you're not going to be moving front lines and you know they're not going to be attacked, you can calculate that and you're done. And that's a pretty decent rule. I like that rule. So this is how we have it set up right now. This is what my front line looks like for this particular phase. Now, I'm not going to go through the battles with you. We've already done combat. But I am going to do videos on the supply usage as I go, starting with the truck stationing. All right, and then from here on out, it'll just be after action reports. And then hopefully we can move on to the 5th scenario and start building on. There's only 2 more learning scenarios after this and we're done. So wish me luck. Hopefully we learned something here. So now that we're using supply, one of the new things we're going to start using is the turn track, the record track, and the phase record track. All right, and since we're getting into this game, I won't show this again. Like I said, I'm going to give you after action reports, but basically you would go through your phases. There's your weather determination segment and supply usage segment, and this is where we're going to be at the beginning of the game. So a quick scan of the battlefield before I start playing this game. I had to do some changes here. I had all my units at the front line up here, and that just wasn't going to work out. So because now that I'm going into the over phase, all right, this is where I'm going to figure out who's going to be in what supply. I had a lot of guys that were out of supply, and in this particular scenario, if they're out of supply, they get removed from the game permanently. So I had to push some guys back towards where they can grab the dump directly over here too. Same thing with the Germans. But as of right now, I can't have everybody at the front line because I won't be able to throw enough points, because the trucks are only bringing about 4 points, the wagon, the truck, all of them. So I'm working with a limitation. So we'll see how that works. It's interesting so far. All right, so let's talk over phase. So here's what I've got going on. In the over phase, I'm going into supply usage segment. In this segment, we have to determine how much supply both sides have. It doesn't matter who goes first. Every player is going to do it independently, and then the other players can check each other's work. It doesn't matter who goes first. We haven't determined who goes first yet. All right, so I'm just looking at the Soviets right now. So my scenario is, I don't know if you can see that, up northeast I have Orel. It has 40 supply points. These units here are sitting nearby, taking directly from Orel. Because if they're not supplied in this scenario, I lose them forever. I don't want that. I have 2 truck units that are stationed, or in other words, I've already calculated their movement points, so they're in a perfect position to deliver any supplies I need. I have 2 HQs, which will both be in full utilization, so they're going to count as 1 DSC, both. All right, but they're taking from 2 different dumps, so that's even better. If I was taking from 1 dump, I can shut down 1 HQ temporarily. All right, and if you notice, their throw range is a 12, which is very good. All right, and I'm counting my movement points, my truck movement points from the road, which is a half a movement point piece. So I have way more than enough to deliver from the trucks to the HQ. All right, now I have to figure out what's happening here. All right, so let's start with the first one at the south. All right, so here's my first group on the south here. All right, I have the unit, the HQ. I have the Katyusha. I believe that's a rocket unit. I'm not sure. It sounds familiar. And then I have a level 2 RE, a division, army of units here. Okay, I'm in what I would like to call a slowdown configuration here. I'm not looking to get into a big fight. I'm just trying to slow these guys down. But anyway, let's figure out what we have to do. So this particular unit is just a regular infantry, nothing mechanized. Okay, that's 1 point. Don't worry about numbers on here. It's 1 point. The Katyusha, if you look at the bottom of this little symbol, there's 2 little dots, black dots. That means it's fully mechanized. That's worth 2. That's 3 points right there. And plus, with this guy here, that's also 1. Remember, if they're in operation, they got to use supply as well. I might move him here to start. All right. That's 4 points right there. So between this truck back here to here, I'm using those 4 supply points. Same thing up here. It's no different. The rest of the units I have are going towards the back, towards the actual dump site, to stay at least in low supply. The trucks do not use supply points. All right, now let's take a look at our Germans. All right, now their dump, excuse me, this is a little awkward. Now their dumps here in Konotop, that's an objective for the Soviets. All right, the rest of their units are back here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, they're within 5. They have to be directly within 5 of the dump, which they are. So I can supply them directly, and I can choose how I want to supply them. All right, I could choose low supply. Remember, if you're supplying from your HQ, you don't have a choice of choosing between different ones. You're either fully supplying them or you're not fully supplying them. It's either fully or low. I mean, you can never choose no supply. So these 2, same thing here. I've got 1, 2, and then 3. So I have an option to bring 1 more, which I think I'll do. Okay, I might bring another unit here. So there's 4. In fact, I'll switch positions here. I'm still trying to figure out, where I want to position everybody. So again, it's more for the learning of the supply. All right. And now in this particular scenario, just so that you guys are aware, I've got my wagon here. Wagons are a little bit different from trucks. So trucks require 5 movement points to be spent in order to load them and unload them. Wagons are 2. I don't know why. I think it's because they're horse-powered or something. So it's only 2 points, so it's 4 points. And you have to be able to, figure out your points from there, which I think I'm a little too far with this guy. I'm going to have to reconfigure where he's going to be. So this battle board may change again. But when you're figuring out your throw range from your HQs, you have to use the terrain. I'm nowhere near a road. I have to use 1 point instead of half a point. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I can move on from there. My throw range, right? I'm well within range of this guy, but this guy's probably gonna have to move. Let's go up north here a little bit. I think I can do some stuff with this guy too. Let's see. So he's 2, 3, 4. No, so he's 4. There's 2 here with the artillery, 1 because he's partially mechanized, and then I got 1. So that's 4 right there. So that's how we're figuring it. And this guy's close to the road, so he would use a road, which is half a movement point. So he's got plenty of throw range. He's sitting pretty. So now I can go ahead and pay for that up here. So since I have, 4, 8, I could take this away, and I can put just a 2 down. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, I put 2 down here. Yeah, 22. And I'm going to do the same for the German side. Okay, so now we're done with figuring out the supply usage. We go down to I don't know if you can read that okay. It says reinforcement placement segment. That's the next part of the phase. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, it doesn't say it because it's cut off from the next page, but it says here, this is for the Soviets. They're going to get, in turn 1, because this is where it's at, turn 1, 20 supply points at B34, 29, which is exactly where Orel is. So we're getting 20 more. So we went from 40, we lost 8, and now we're getting 20 more to be placed. And then the Germans, I'm going to move you. For their turn 1, after they're done, they're going to get 10 SPs, and they're going to get it exactly at Konotop as well. So they're getting a few more supply points, and then that looks like that's about it for any kind of reinforcements. So we're going to have to work with what we have. So once we have figured out all of the supply points necessary, we place a supply marker underneath the HQs responsible. So under here and under here, this marker says full. Okay, no problem. Underneath this, it shows no supply. All right. Now it's supposed to. Now it says we're supposed to mark the direct draw, respectively, but I took them as low supply. This is about 14 points of supply that I still have to calculate. All right, and so if I'm taking low supply, it'll be at 7. So I'm going to mark them, but I don't have anything here. I look for any kind of markers in this particular set that says low supply. I don't see them anywhere. So I don't know if that was a mistake or they just didn't put them into the box. I don't know. I don't know what happened. So I'm just going to do one of these bad boys. Put them on directly just to show on the stacks that these are low supply. These are the grout tile markers I bought on Amazon. Let me get one more. I have a few more over here, and I'll put one on here as well, just to show that they're low supply at this time. But we do have to pay for those as well. So that was 7 points. So out of 20, you're going to have 13. So I'll figure that out, and I'll do that the same for the German side, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I had to make a few adjustments to the battlefield here. Again, I got rid of the infantry units because I realized now that in order to utilize any of your combat, not only do you have to supply them fully, but you also have to spend supply points to actually use them. And I didn't have any. So the way I had it set up, they're fully used. I can't do anything with them, right? You have to spend combat points in order to go anywhere. So for the sake of learning the game, I just removed the 2 units. I put them back by Orel under supply. I adjusted the supply dump. So now what I'm starting to realize is you want to use your trucks and get these supplies moved around the battlefield where you can get to them for fighting purposes. For the most part, as a defender, you can always attack. You don't need supply, but you attack at half. But for attackers, you can't do anything unless you have supply. So for the sake of argument for this game, so we can learn it, and since it's a barrage, we haven't done a barrage yet, I've already spent the points, it's been adjusted, so we're going to do this. So the way this works is there's a barrage table that we're going to use, okay? These are paid for. I'm going to fire my first barrage over here to see what happened, okay? And then let's see what occurs, actually. So here is the table, all right? So now the way it's set up, I'm going to adjust this camera just a little bit for you guys so you can see what I'm doing here, all right? It's a simple two die roll because my Katyushas they're fully supplied. If I didn't have a full supply, I can only use one die, all right? And it's very simple. You roll your dice, and then whatever your Katyusha is, it's 25 here. This would be the chart that we'd use. Now, there is some shifting going on, column shifting, if you remember that. So if you're in a level 1 or 2 hedgehog, you get to shift, which he's not. If you're in close or very close terrain, which is what the Katyusha is in, he's in open terrain. He's just in open terrain. You would shift to the left, so that's not good. All right. So basically, in the target hex. So here, I'm sorry, I'm bringing you over here. Adjust you again. The target hex for the northern Katyusha is this guy. So if he's a 1 RE or less, you're going to have less hard time hitting him. Okay, so he's going to be 2 shifts to the left. So it's actually going to be harder to hit him. So because there's less people there, it's a rocket. So it's not like you're going to have awesome aim. Now, if you had a bigger guy to hit, it would probably be easier because you have more people. It's a larger army. You're going to hit something. So let's go ahead and let's do that roll right now. So under the rules, we're going to do 1 shift to the left. Okay. No, it's gonna be 2 shifts to the left because it's less than 1 RE. Okay, it's less than. It's only a damn, what is it called? A company or something like that. Anyway, we'll figure it out. So it's gonna be 2 shifts to the left, and we're gonna roll. So I rolled an 8. Okay, so the Katyusha is here. I rolled an 8, which would take me down here, but I gotta go 2 shifts to the left. 1, 2. So he gets disorganized. I don't know if you can see that from there. I apologize if it's a distance, but he gets disorganized. So he's going to add this organization to this guy. All right, very good. That ends that. And the Katyusha is gone. According to this scenario, the Katyusha is gone. And then the next Katyusha, he's in open ground as well. He's going to fire at this unit. Now that's a level 4 RE. So let's go over here. That's going to be a shift to the right. So the Katyusha is 25. We're going to be using this particular line. But if he has at least 4, but less than 6 REs in the hex, shift 2 columns to the right. Ooh, interesting. So we're actually rolling on this one here, the 69 to 116. So I rolled an 11 on this one here, and that's a 2. He gets disorganized, and he gets a 2-step loss. That's huge. I don't know if you can see that right there. So he gets 2-step loss for the 11, and he gets a DG no matter what. So I'm gonna do that right now. That's actually pretty huge for that guy. So he's gonna get his 2-step loss right here. I know it's a little hard to see, and I gotta get another DG, and then I'll place it under him, and then he's gonna be in serious situation here. Okay, so I already did the first turn, and just a quick little update. I moved some guys around here. Okay, I'm backing out a little bit here. I found it very difficult to station the trucks. Having only 2 trucks is almost impossible to get anything done. All right, so having the trucks I had and stationing them doesn't work very well. I only get 4 supply points, and most of them get used up just to supply the guys on the front line. So now, as I'm getting ready for the second turn, here, like the Soviets are going to go, this is 4 points sitting here right here, right now. So if I go full with the points, that's it. That's all I've got. So not very efficient. Not very efficient at all. So I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use one truck for the points to set up for a front line, the other truck to stage more points behind it so they can do their attacks. Because other than that, I don't see how it's going to happen. I think that's how it's going to be. Well, I read over the rules, and basically the point of this scenario is just to teach you how to keep your units in supply. So it's only done in 2 turns. There's no way you're going to take over the other area. You know, it's impossible. I've noticed that with these scenarios. It's not really meant to win anything. It's to teach you the basics of the rules. So I keep overthinking that, and it just messes with me. So let's see what happens. I ended up moving my 2 Russian trucks together to put a huge pile of tokens here. However, all of that got spent up. In RL up here, I had to pay for all these guys in reserve to keep them in supply. Down by Conant Top, I had to pay for the Germans down there off camera. All right. And then I had to pay for all of the guys that are going to get into this fight. So this is the Russians' turn now. We had a little bit of a skirmish over here. This particular German unit is now step 1 left. He took 3 step losses. He forced back this guy. All right. And now the Russians have moved in to attack with a couple of mechanized units here. They also have an artillery unit that they want to fire. So the way this works is you're working in tokens now, not supply points. All right. So to attack, if you have 1 RE or less engaged on one side. So okay. So if you have at least 2 regimental equivalents, you have to pay at least 2 tokens to attack. None of these are. They're all 1 regimental equivalents, okay? So they're going to cost me 3 tokens, 1 for each. So I'll remove the supply and put in my 1 token. So I've just consumed 3 tokens to make this attack. That's how an attack goes in this game. I just want to kind of clarify how it works and how supply is consumed during this. In the over phase, I already paid for the units to be here, just to sit here, by bringing everybody here closer into this 1 stockpile. All right. Basically, my truck goes back to Orel, brings guys here, and then they have their fight. And so I'll do the fight, and then we'll move from there. Okay, so I had that situation. They were successful. The Russians removed that particular infantry unit, but now the next problem lies in is I only have 1 token worth of supply left. So now it's the Germans' second turn. It's called the player turn 2. All right, so we go through that turn all over again, and now I have really nothing to attack with. I mean, I can move pieces around. I can go into zones of control, technically, but I can't conduct any attacks. Now, the defender can attack, or, well, defend if I'm attacking him, and that's about it. And so that's, I mean, he only has 1 token as well. So what I'm learning really, really fast about supply in an OCS game, and I'm starting to love it, and even because it's a pain in the ass, is you have to prepare well ahead of time. You got to get supply out into these fields and have dumps ready to go on your own. So don't just rely on stationing your trucks, but actually have a plan to drop supplies where you need them. Because if you don't, you're going to be paying for it. Because now, I mean, we're pretty much done here. I can't get to Orel. Even if I could, I can't do anything there. He can't come down here. He doesn't have enough supply. And so the game is pretty much over with. I'm going to call this finished. And I'm going to say that I learned pretty good what supply is. It's a preconceived notion of where you want things to be before you get there. And it's the importance of keeping your guys in supply at all times. So I was able to do that. I was able to keep everybody in supply. I had people, you know, up here in Orel taking from the dump directly. They were covered. I had these guys out here. They were covered, no problem. The ones down here, they were covered as well. So success. I think overall it's a successful mission of learning. However, there was no invasion. So I'm going to end the game here, and I'm going to end scenario 4 here as well. And then when we come back, we're going to get into the 5th scenario, which is going to be called, just so that I make sure I get out there, Aluminum Forecast. All right, so we're going to learn a little bit more about aircraft now. Ground units and aircraft and how we get airfields into this game. And we're so close to ending our Learning as We Play series.